Tesla is a brand known worldwide for their EVs, but here in the Philippines, they're few and far between. I'm talking about the car, not the eccentric guy that owns it. It super excites me, although I may not sound it because I'm a bit under the weather, that on this episode of Behind the Wheel, we get to review the car that is leading the charge, not just for the brand, but for EVs as a whole. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Tesla Model Y. And in 2022, it was the #1 selling EV in the world. And it was also the third best selling car, behind only like the Corolla and the RAV4, Toyotas. Can you imagine? Now, we're obviously going to go through the exterior, the interior, the comfort, the practicality of the car, blah, 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 and all that jazz. But the first thing I want to get to is the acceleration test, because I'm told that the power of this car, it can go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in basically 3.7 seconds. And by God, I'm going to do that right now. Jack, are you ready?
Just give me 1 sec.
Oh my God! Jeez!
Oh my God.
Oh my, what the actual Now, I'm sure you've seen videos all over the internet of Teslas doing very many different things, from reviews overseas to like drag races to even flying. But now I'm really excited to show you what it is that the brand can offer in the context of a Filipino buyer. And what better way to do that than with their best-selling variant, the Model Y. The big question on everybody's mind is price. Now, upon checking the AutoDeal app, you can find that through Voltion Motors, the Tesla Model Y starts at 3,300,000 Philippine pesos and tops out at 4,500,000 Philippine pesos for this performance variant. Now, while it is a pretty penny, it's actually quite well priced considering how much power you get for your peso. Let's start with the exterior. Now, this is gonna sound kind of mean, but when you're looking at it directly up front, it kind of resembles a hammerhead shark with like nothing in the middle. But when you're looking at it from a quarter angle, it all of a sudden makes sense. In fact, it kind of even looks like an Aston Martin. Down the side, you've got the most gorgeous wheels I've ever seen on an EV, bar none. Wrapped in 35 series P0s. You've got 255 up front and 275 at the rear. Holy smokes. And if that's not enough, the calipers are nice and red. 157 millimeters of ground clearance, and unlike other conventional automobiles, the repeaters of this vehicle are not on the side mirrors. It's back on the side of the car, where a camera is. And then there's another camera on the B pillar. In fact, there's a total of 1,729 billion cameras on this car because Tesla has opted to exchange radar for more cameras. Not only do the cameras aid the advanced driver assist systems of the vehicle as well as Tesla Vision, but it also acts as a dash camera and sentry mode so that when the car is left by itself, it's its own CCTV to protect it against anybody that wants to break into your car. Now, the rear is by no means ugly. I actually like it. I just wanted to say that this is quite literally the chunkiest rear I've ever seen in my life. The last time I saw a rear this chunky, you know what? Never mind. And check this out, real carbon fiber. Look at that. Can we steal this? Now, once you step inside, it's obvious to see that the theme in here is minimalistic. And boy, do I mean minimalistic. And that is actually good and bad. Basically, for the better and worse. Allow me to explain. We start with the dashboard. Completely flat, free of clutter, very nice to look at. Immediately under that, the air vents. Very, very thin, found underneath. Then a piece of faux wood, just one piece that stretches the entire dashboard, really making it look very, very clean. On the steering wheel, it's quite large, quite hefty. It feels good. There are only two rotary buttons that with directions left and right on the steering wheel, and that's it. On the right hand side is your shifter. On the left hand side are your lights for your signal. In the center, you have a glove box, which is very large, large enough to carry even Jack's very massive and manly bottle, as he likes to call it. And then two cup holders that can hold large plastic bottles right there and right there. In the center console, you've got more storage space there. And that's basically it. We wrap it up with two very, very minimalist wireless charging ports or pads right there. And there's also two USB charging points in the center storage. There is a USB-A port in the glove box. And then for old foggies like myself, there is a 12-volt socket found in the center console. You have the 15 plus inch infotainment system that you have in the center, which I gotta tell you, controls everything. And when I say it controls everything, I can say it in two ways. Dude, it controls everything. And then again, dude, it controls everything. As in everything. Let me demonstrate. Remember how I said the air vents are very thin, very minimalist, very clean looking? How do you think you'd control them? You'd probably get yourself crooked fingers like this trying to fix it. You don't control it there. You control the direction of the air from inside this system. And it's a touchscreen. And my goodness, it's a trip really, but to be able to get into it, again, you gotta know the system very, very well. Then, if you remember, I told you that this was the shifter. Where do you think the controls for the wipers are? Ya guessed it. Achoo! I need a tissue. Gotta head for the glove box. Where's the button? Let's open the trunk. Uh-oh. Everything is in here, and I do mean everything. From your lights to your mirrors, even the steering wheel. Look, I can go to the steering wheel right away, but I'd have to press a button on that system first before being able to activate these buttons here. If that button, or that panel isn't activated on the screen, these buttons don't do what I asked them to do. It's just really weird. Now, I will say this. It can be quite convoluted. It can be quite intimidating. Yes, no doubt. But I feel that once this is your personal car, it becomes much easier for you to figure out these things in a much faster manner. But it's just that, I mean, come on, wipers, that's a bit much. Oh, and if you haven't noticed, there is no gauge cluster in this car because everything that you need to know is right there. It must also be said that for an under-tall, immature dwarf like myself, this infotainment screen inside a Tesla has got to be one of the best gimmicked infotainment screens that I've seen ever because it is one of the most entertaining. It's got a boombox where you can mess around and change the sound of your horn. Because I'm immature, I can add fart noises inside the car. Excuse me. If I get bored when I'm charging the vehicle, I can stay in and play a game, even using the steering wheel to control it. And also, I can work on my retirement career. Now, I know we said we could never afford music for our videos. Now we can, thanks to the Tesla. And who knows, if this AutoDeal gig doesn't work out, at least I know I've got a future as a DJ.
Not really.
Now, this is very important, especially for Filipino buyers. See, it does not have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. That's already enough to put your arms up in the air. The thing is, for other markets, what they have is internet connectivity and they've got apps like Spotify and navigation on it. The problem is the cars that we're going to get is Chinese spec. So all the apps that are going to be inside it are useless for us Filipinos. So you're relegated to Bluetooth for your audio and then using your phone as your navigation. I don't, however, know if that's going to be remedied anytime soon, but currently it is what it is. Now, I need to ask you guys as consumers a very big question. We can't do anything about the fact that Tesla has designed the vehicle that all the controls are inside the infotainment system. That's it. You love it or you leave them. But what we can do is ask you guys, what do you guys think about the fact that we can't use any of the apps inside this screen, which is basically meaning it's just a really large iPad with games on it. That's about it. So do you guys think that the Tesla is still worth getting, even though you can't use any of the apps, which is what North America uses anyway, and it's the same as us? Or do you think that, well, I can live without it, and I can still see myself buying a Tesla simply because of what it represents? Let us know in the comments below. If, however, you're eyeing an EV with a heck of a lot easier controls and apps that you can use, why not check out our review of the Ioniq 5? The link is somewhere down below. That is actually one of Jack's very favorite automobiles. Now, you might be wondering what the rear seats look like. I gotta tell you this, it would be pointless for us to show you the rear seats of this automobile because this car has been customized with 2 captain's chairs that fold out and whatnot. So it would be pointless. But it is important to note that there are some Model Ys out there that are 7-seater Model Ys because the rear, all the way at the back obviously, pops up to 2 additional seats. But judging by the sloping roofline, which you've seen from the outside anyway, it doesn't look like there's a lot of space back there. Better for, well, yeah, fine, people like me. Cargo space, very, very impressive. And is too that the fact that there's a button to actually open the rear cargo door. Because of the customization that is inside this automobile, we can't really show you the full potential of what 753 liters looks like. But this is an approximation, whereas this is a balikbayan box, overnight luggage, and the early warning device of Tesla. So it is actually quite large, and it's got a flat lip too. So obviously, loading heavier items won't be an issue. If you want, or rather, if you want or need even more space, check this out. Booyah! Enough space for that. Look at that, man. That is redonkulous. So if space is definitely a non-negotiable thing for you when talking about EVs, this is probably going to be your best bet because this has more space than the Ioniq 5 or the EV6. And if the 750 plus liters in the rear aren't even enough for you, well, up front, you've got an additional 117 liters of space, which again should be big enough for your hand carries or an overnight bag. But despite all that space, there is no spare tire or a tire repair kit. So if you're gonna get this thing, you better know a guy that knows a guy. Now, charging the Tesla isn't as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's not that complicated. Look. Over here, you've got a GBT charger, and over to the side, you've got the Tesla supercharger, which unfortunately isn't available in the country just yet. The thing is, all of our fast chargers in the country are Type 2, so you can't use it on this vehicle. Just to give you an example, if you were to use the fast charger on an EV6, it would take you all of 18 minutes to go from 10% to 80%, right? But we're back to the Tesla. So if you were to use the charger that comes with the vehicle, the emergency charger, what a normal outlet, that will take you roughly about 22 to 25 hours to charge from 0 to 100%. If you were to use the chargers at a mall, the box outlets, and something that you would install at home, that's great to top up because then you'll go from 0 to 100% in roughly about 12 hours. And then if you use the supercharger, which hopefully will come to the country sometime very, very soon, then you can charge your vehicle from 10% to 80% in a matter of 16 minutes. That's ridiculous. If you do find yourself in a mall and it's only a Type 2 charger, worry not because the dealer here in the Philippines will provide you with an adapter. What's all that quick charging without range, right? Well, luckily, the Model Y Performance comes with a range of up to 487 kilometers according to Tesla, which is really not bad because that's like going from Metro Manila all the way to Lawag City in one charge. How do you close? Ay, nako. Sumusobra ka na. Oh, and just before we set out, we'd love to be able to show you the Tesla app and all the functions that you get with that app to start the car and whatnot and open the doors and everything. Unfortunately, that's more of a personal thing for whoever it is that owns the automobile. And since this isn't ours, we're relegated to this. It's talking about Jack.
Thanks.
Oh my God! Slow down! Please slow down! Regardless of whatever it is that you have to say about the layout of the vehicle, whether it's the infotainment or the layout of the entire car itself, there is one undisputable fact, which is that the Model Y has got performance up the wazoo. This, of course, is the performance package. This has got 527 horses, 620 Newton meters of torque. And if that sounds like it's a recipe for a really friggin' good time, it is. To put it in perspective, that's more horsepower than a 911. This is a crossover. At the start of all of this, the first thing that we did was the acceleration test, and that really blew me out of the water. The closest thing that I've ever experienced to that would be the BMW iX, and this blows that out of the water. It's just ridiculous, the amount of power that is put down on all four wheels inside this car. It just doesn't stop, and you keep going and going and going. Now, it's also staggering about how this car keeps itself on the road, because the total weight of this automobile is over 2,000 kilograms. Basically, it's the weight of a CX-9 in a crossover, in a compact crossover, no doubt. And then there's the fact that it's got huge tires on this, 21 inches, offset too. You've got 235 up front and 275 at the rear. And yet, because of the weight of this car, it doesn't feel like you're bouncing around as if you were in a touring car championship going for the title. Nope, it still feels like it's a proper car. I just wish I could control my wipers a lot sooner, but that is actually in here.
Let me get it for you.
Thanks, Jack. I'm gonna need that.
Controls auto. There you go.
Hey, oh, I can see. But see, the absolute amazing thing about this car is you can talk about it with no ends about how it performs, how quick it is, and everything like that. But it can immediately go into, well, it's called chill mode. As you'll see right here, I'm on sport. I'm gonna go into chill mode right now. And what happens is the response chills out a little bit more. You can drive it obediently like a proper citizen using the roads properly, not like a hooligan that's trying to carve a new road up and down a mountain. It's just staggering how the car, with all its weight, can carve mountains without complaining at all. And then in an instant, much like an electric light switch, it can change and be just your average automobile that is comfortable to drive, whether you're stuck in traffic or on long drives on the highway. It's like it has the ability to go from Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde and back without any issues whatsoever. The NVH inside this car is as expected. It's going to be quiet because there is no engine. You've only got a motor. But when you realize that this thing is running on 35 series tires, it's just, I don't know how they do it. It's not only that the build quality is great and it keeps everything down to a minimum, but the sound deadening inside the car is just amazing. Now, while I do say it is quite comfortable, the suspension, well, at least for this performance model, is still a little bit on the stiff side. So look, my head will bobble around just a little bit while we're driving normally at 45 kilometers per hour. That's one. The other issue that I have is the seats. Mind you, they're extremely plush. They're very thick, and you can really push yourself back into it. And it really feels like a new Lazy Boy. But that's the problem. It feels like a new Lazy Boy in the sense that the lumbar support is always apparent. Now, obviously, there's power seats, and I can move the lumbar support back, but it's just, well, it makes you want to sit up and drive properly, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but really, I'm not used to it. Also, I know I'm short, but I like to put my seat down as low as possible because, I don't know, maybe because I think I'm Chicano or something, but really I do. In this car, however, even Jack found it odd that he couldn't lower his seat anymore. In this position that you're seeing me at, this is the lowest that the seat can go. And look at the ground clearance that I have, although
Ground
great.
clearance?
Ground clearance, sorry. Look at the headroom that I have, although great. Imagine Jack, who's 6 feet tall, that's gonna diminish by half. And it's not just Jack's headroom, it's also his vision that gets impaired. So maybe, just maybe, and I'm spitballing here, maybe Teslas are meant for short people. Now, when I say that visibility for Jack is hampered a bit and I'm okay, that's not entirely true. It is a little bit difficult for me because the A-pillars are actually quite wide. The consuelo de bobo is that at least the side mirrors are not mounted close to the the A-pillars, and they're mounted away from the car, so that at least helps ever so slightly. Apart from the acceleration factor that Teslas obviously have, one major thing, and I'm sure you've seen this all online, is the fact that the car can drive itself, or it has the ability to do so. Unfortunately, I have to report that it doesn't work as well as you'd expect it to in the Philippines, which is a nice way of saying it barely works here at all because of certain factors that you see out there when you're driving, which is one, sometimes the lanes aren't complete. Number two, you've got one or two camotes here and there. Number three, tricycles that don't move out of the way. Number four, dogs that all of a sudden cross the highway, that stop in the middle of the road, take a look at you as if to say, ano, ikaw yung tatabi o ako, ano ba talaga? You know, it's stuff like that. So while there are advanced driver assist systems inside this car like lane keep and adaptive cruise, that one aspect of Tesla unfortunately doesn't work well on our roads. It brings me no joy to say that I am one of very few Filipinos that have ever driven a Tesla on Philippine roads, and Jack feels the same way also, because the truth is we want everyone to experience what a Tesla feels like on our roads. The acceleration, the power, the technology behind it. Unfortunately, well, it may not seem to happen as quickly as we'd like because there are some drawbacks. It's easy to understand why this is the #1 selling EV in the world. I mean, you've got a heck of a lot of space inside, whether it's for passengers or for cargo. You've got a great amount of tech. You've got the performance of the vehicle, whether in the performance package or not. And then you have the ability to charge it very rapidly with the supercharger. But, and this is a really big but, just like the car's huge but, I don't think that the Model Y, or any Tesla for that matter, is 100% ready for the general consumer of the Philippines, right? However, for those that understand the compromise and have the capability of charging it at home, man, this thing really is something special. And it surprises me that Tesla, which is a relatively young company in the automotive world, has been able to overcome their growing pains quite rapidly. Now, regardless of what you may think about the guy that owns this company, he's onto something here, and that something is really good.